Welcome to a special edition of That's a Good Cup of Joe. We are here today to continue our pilgrimage through the U.S. Constitution. So, as we get kicking today, we're finally going to get to Federalist paper number 2, which is entitled Concerning Dangers from Foreign Force and Influence. Now, as I've said before, this one, to have it begin with foreign force and influence, is so resonating right now because we've got everything that's happening in regards to Trump, that plane, the investors that are buying into his meme coin or whatever coin. It's the hypocrisy and the I just gotta say, the bribery that's going on in White House right now because of him. The foreign influence, people, billionaires buying up, trying to, well, you know what I'm saying. You understand, you see it. We're living it right now. But I think we just need to get into the crux of our Constitution and understand why they made the decisions that they made. So we're going to get off on Federalist paper number 2, concerning dangers from foreign force and influence. And this was for the Independent Journal, and the author is John Jay. So let's go. To the people of the state of New York. When the people of America reflect, they are now called upon to decide a question which in its consequences must prove one of the most important that ever engaged their attention. The propriety of their taking a very comprehensive, as well as a very serious view of it, will be evident. Nothing is more certain than the indispensable necessity of government, and is equally undeniable that whenever and however it is instituted, the people must concede to it some of their natural rights in order to vest it with requisite powers. It is well worthy of consideration, therefore, whether it would conduce more of the interest of the people of America that they should, to all general purposes, be one nation under one federal government, or that they should divide themselves into separate confederacies and give to the head of each the same kind of powers which they are advised to place in one national government. It has until lately been a received and uncontradicted opinion that the prosperity of the people of America depend on their continually firmly united, and the wishes, prayers, and efforts of our best and wisest citizens have been constantly directed to the object. But politicians now appear who insist that this opinion is erroneous, and that instead of looking for safety and happiness in union, we ought to seek it in a division of states into distinct confederacies or sovereignties. However extraordinary this new doctrine may appear, it nevertheless has its advocates, and certain characters who were much opposed to it formerly are at present of the number. Whatever may be the arguments or inducements which have wrought this change in the sentiments and declarations of these gentlemen, it certainly would not be wise in the people at large to adopt these new political tenets without being fully convinced that they are founded in truth and sound policy. It has often given me pleasure to observe that independent America was not composed of detached and distant territories, but that one connected, fertile, wide-spreading country was the portion of our Western Sons of Liberty. Providence has, in a particular manner, blessed it with a variety of soils and productions, and watered it with innumerable streams for the delight and accommodation of its inhabitants. A succession of navigable waters form a kind of chain around its borders, as if to bind it together, while most noble rivers in the world, running at convenient distances, present them with highways for easy communication with friendly aids and the mutual transportation and exchange of their various commodities. With equal pleasure, I have as often taken notice that Providence has been pleased to give this one connected country to one united people, a people descended from the same ancestors, speaking the same language, professing the same religion, attached to the same principles of government, very similar in their manners and customs, and who, by their joint counsels, arms, and efforts, fighting side by side throughout a long and bloody war, have notably established general liberty and independence. This country and this people seem to have been made for each other. It appears as if that it was the design of Providence, that inheritance so proper and convenient for the band of brethren, united to each other by the strongest ties, should never be split into a number so unsocial, jealous, and alien sovereignties. Similar sentiments have hereunto prevailed among all orders and denominations of men among us. To all general purposes, we have uniformly been one people, each individual citizen, everywhere enjoying the same national rights, privileges, and protections. As a nation, we have made peace and war. As a nation, we have vanquished our common enemies. As a nation, we have formed alliances and made treaties and entered into various compacts and conventions with foreign states. A strong sense of the value of blessings of union induced the people at a very early period. It is institute a federal government to preserve and perpetuate it. They formed it almost as soon as they had a political existence. Nay, at a time when our habitations were in flames, when many of our citizens were bleeding, and when the progress of hostility and the desolation left little room for those calm and mature inquiries and reflection which must ever precede the formation of a wise and well-balanced government for a free people. It is not to be wondered at that a government instituted in times of inauspicious should on experiment be found greatly deficient and inadequate for the purpose it was intended to answer. This intelligent people perceived and regretted these defects, still continuing no less attached to union than enamored of liberty. They observed the danger which immediately threatened the former and more remotely the latter, and being persuaded that ample security for both could be only founded in a national government more wisely framed. They, as with one voice, convened a late convention at Philadelphia to take that important subject under consideration. This convention, composed of men who possess the confidence of the people, and many of them whom become highly distinguished by their patriotism, virtue, and wisdom, in times which tried the minds and hearts of men, undertook the arduous task. In the mild season of peace, with minds unoccupied by other subjects, they passed many months in cool, uninterrupted, and daily consultation, and finally, without having been awed by power or influenced by any passions except love for their country, they presented and recommended to the people the plan produced by their joint and very unanimous council. Admit, for so is the fact, that this plan is only recommended, not imposed. Yet let it be remembered that it is neither recommended to blind approbation nor to blind reprobation, but to the sedated and candid consideration which the magnitude and importance of the subject demand, and which it certainly ought to receive. But this, as was remarked in the foregoing number of this paper, it is more than to be wished and expected, that it may be so considered and examined. Experience on a former occasion teaches us not to be too sanguine in such hopes. It is not yet forgotten that well-grounded apprehensions of imminent dangers induced the people of America to form the memorable Congress of 1774. That body recommended certain measures to their constituents, and the evidence proved their wisdom. Yet it is fresh in our memories how long the press began to teem with pamphlets and weekly papers against those very measures. Not only many of the officers of government, who obeyed the dictates of very measures, but others from the mistaken estimates of consequences or the undue influence of former attachments, for whose ambitions aimed at objects which did not correspond with the public good, were indefatigable in their efforts to persuade the people to reject the advice of the patriotic Congress. Many indeed were deceived and deluded by the great majority of the people, reasoned and decided judiciously, and happy they are in reflecting that they did so. They considered that the Congress was composed of many wise and experienced men, that being convened from different parts of the country, they brought with them and communicated to each other a variety of useful information, that in the course of the time they passed together in inquiring into and discussing the true interests of their country, they must have acquired very accurate knowledge on that head, that they were individually interested in the public liberty and prosperity, and therefore that it was not less their inclination that their duty to recommend only such measures as, after the most mature deliberation, they really thought prudent and advisable. These and similar considerations then induced the people to rely greatly on the judgment and integrity of the Congress, and they took their advice, notwithstanding the various arts and endeavors used to deter them from it. But if the people at large had reason to confide in the men of the Congress, few whom have been fully tried or generally known, still greater reason have they now to respect the judgment and advice of the convention. For it is well known that some of the most distinguished members of that Congress, who have been since tried and justly approved for patriotism and abilities, and who have grown old in acquiring political information, were also members of this convention and carried into it their own accumulated knowledge and experience. It is worthy of remark that not only the first, but every succeeding Congress, as well as the late convention, has invariably joined with the people in thinking that the prosperity of America depended on its union. To preserve and perpetuate it was a great object of the people in forming that convention, and it is also the great object of the plan which the convention has advised them to adopt, with the propriety, therefore, or for what good purposes, are attempts at this particular period made by some men to depreciate the importance of the Union, or why it is suggested that 3 or 4 confederacies will be better than one. I am persuaded in my own mind that the people have always thought right on this subject, and that their universal and uniform attachment to the cause of the Union rests on great and weighty reasons, which I shall endeavor to develop and explain in some ensuing papers. They who promote the idea of substituting a number of distinct confederacies in the room of the plan of the convention seem to clearly to foresee that the rejection of it would put the continuance of the Union in the utmost jeopardy. That certainly would be the case, and I sincerely wish that it may be as clearly foreseen by every good citizen that whenever the dissolution of the Union arrives, America will have reason to exclaim in these words of the poet, "Farewell, a long farewell to all my greatness." So, there we go. The first official proclamation in trying to explain and get people to understand how being one united government may be in the best interest of the people instead of separating them into separate confederacies. So, when we come back, we're going to get to Federalist paper number 3 and get going because we have a lot to get through. And that is today's Good Cup of Joe.